Okay, hello.
Hello, welcome.
I'm Lauren Balt.
Cameo win. I don't know what was up with that. Welcome. But...
Hello, Mrs. Doubtfire.
Hello.
And we are Atypical Design Studio. I was just transferring all of our videos into audio to upload to like a podcast channel, and I realized like how terrible we are at like silences and doing things with our hands and like things that people that would be just listening
like isms
aren't gonna get it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna try to do better about that. Just
we need to be more descriptive with our words.
Not just like
use your words, honey.
Pretend we're like no one's looking at us and that we're just talking.
Okay,
and,
good to know.
Don't have like long silences and just stare at each other like we usually do.
Okay.
We'll try to do better.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is a podcast about interior design and all sort of adjoining,
creative,
adjacent. We've already blown it. We're already doing a really bad job. We've already your boobs stay like
Jesus, it's wrong. Enjoy the people who are watching.
I know. If you don't have the YouTube and you're just listening, you might want to log on to look at Cameo's cleavage because it looks really good.
Louise.
But
really representing ourselves well here.
Yeah.
Back to business.
Restart. So on our very serious professional podcast, we talk about interior design, all things interior design, our design firm, which is called Atypical Studio in Salt Lake City, Utah. And this week, every week I also surprise Cameo with the topic, so she never knows what we're going to talk about. And this week we kind of dropped a hint last week, so I'm sure you have an idea.
I don't actually.
But it is going to be all about trends.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
that makes sense.
I said that would be a good one for us to talk about, and it's one I've been wanting to talk about for a while because I have opinions on it.
Yes, I do too.
And so we have opinions.
We have lots of opinions.
But yeah, so anything trend related, trends you love, trends you hate, what clients ask you about trends,
when to use them,
when
not to.
Trends, yes. So
yes,
dive right in. Tell us what you think.
Okay.
Let's start with like good. Like let's start with like defining a trend, maybe? Like how do you define a trend?
I should have picked up on this last week and studied up. Okay, I think a trend to me is something that is not a long-term type of design or style. Something that is sort of in a season and then out the next season versus something that's timeless, which will always be in style for years to come.
And that's so interesting because I think of trends, I think I internally define trends a little bit differently.
Oh.
In that I define a trend as like almost like a wave that comes and goes, and instead of like it being in and then out, it's a little bit slower and it's a little bit
well, especially with interior design.
Yeah, like interior design specifically, like it's harder to define because there are also things that can be trendy that are also classics. And so
it's true.
I almost think it's more like a social, like specifically to interior design, sort of like a social gauge of where we are, like within our lives and within our the spaces, right? Because you can look at the way homes were designed in the 50s and they were like super closed off and every room had like its own little purpose, and now it's like people are wanting great rooms and they want to be able to see and they want the windows to be bigger. And it also has to do with like technology,
like the trend of the time, more so like a functionality. Like the trend is to have open floor plans.
Right. I'm thinking more of it on a bigger scale, like, and it also has to do with technology, right? Because all the time it's like, oh, it's trendy to put in like a you could say
smart home
or like a projector or a theater room or like all these things, and it just depends on like what the technology is at the time. And so I think it's kind of like a two-part thing.
I see
kind of
what you're
what
saying.
you mentioned, stuff that's like kind of the quick, it's gonna be like super hot, and then it's gonna like everyone's gonna be over it.
Yeah, more like a color or a pattern or a texture.
Yeah, but then there's also those trends that no matter what, you can't get away from. It's just going to be part of like that era of time that you happen to be in.
And I also think like the interesting thing about trends right now, especially with the way that we have more access to information, is that they come and go like a lot quicker. And so trends are not something where it's like, oh, this thing hasn't ever been around.
Right.
It's like, oh, actually this was really popular 50 years ago, but now it's like, oh, this was popular 5 years ago and it's back again. Maybe not that exact timeline, but it's like the trends repeat themselves more quickly now.
They do. And I think it's interesting too, like, the boobs are out again. I hate when it's like, it's the media's fault, right? It's always the media's fault. They're the ones that are pushing out those things that are like, the top 5 trends to avoid, the top 5 hottest trends for your kitchen this spring, and that's all just like bullshit that's like pulled out of some.
It's
some
like a
writers,
marketing tool or like a way to sell things or
or it's just like filler fluff. Like, oh, I've seen this. Like, I could write 10 of those a day if I had to, but it doesn't mean it's reality.
Yeah.
Just because it doesn't mean that's actually what's trending. It means you've seen like a few of those things. Like, everybody's doing green kitchens. Everybody's doing blue kitchens. It's like.
Yeah. But it comes down to also specifically, I feel like with interior design and same with like any trend, if you like it and it feels like something that will grow with you, it doesn't matter. Like it's all about your style and what you want to use and making it work together.
And it's important to have like a design, because it's hard to differentiate sometimes for people. Maybe like I remember when I was like a poor college student and going to, for example, like, I don't know, like Pier 1 or one of those places, like trying to like get cute things, and it was like, or it's all like been in the industry for a really long time, and it's all like knockoffs of something else. And so yes, they're trendy technically, but like to me it was something new and it was something cool and it was something exciting. And so it just depends on like where you are at in your life as well, as far as like how those trends are gonna fit into your life.
Yeah. And I think that it's part of our job too to be well versed about what's happening around the world too, so that like as we're helping clients design, maybe a trend hasn't made it to the West Coast or more rural areas, and we are there to help say like, just you wait and see, or get ahead of the curve, because this is all the rage in New York or Paris or whatever. But also balancing like, is this gonna feel good for you in your space over a long period of time?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of what I mentioned, I think it was on an earlier episode, about how like there are trends that come and go and that are just always going to be consistent. I hear that like, oh, marble's trendy right now, and it's like, well, marble and interiors has been around for thousands of years, literally. And so it can be trendy, whereas like everybody's doing it and everybody's like doing a knockoff of everybody else, and it's way more like affordable and approachable because it's into the mainstream. Maybe mainstream is a better way to put it than trendy, because it's kind of like saying the same thing, but it's like about accessibility, and then once it hits the mainstream, it's like almost like it gets flooded, right? But it doesn't mean that it's like the same quality or the same like interesting, unique design as something that's more mainstream.
Totally. And I think it's like also a skill set of knowing how to use those things. Like, you know, if for example, marble, like you mentioned, if that is like technically a trend or you see it in the mainstream all the time currently, you know, it might also be like marble with brass, with white cabinetry, with white oak floors. Like if you love that marble and it's something that's going to like grow with you, maybe you mix that in with another element that isn't as mainstream so that it like switches it up a little bit. And it doesn't feel like our whole goal, you know, with interior design, right, is that in 5 years, you don't look back and go, oh, that was done in the year 2024. And it's obvious because that's what was like super popular, but still getting like a level of, it feels current as well. So it's like, it's just a balancing game, I think.
Yeah. And like, I think that's part of it is like the part that you mentioned about like the materiality and the patterns and all this stuff, like that's the stuff that's gonna kind of date your space. Whereas to be able to say, oh, this is so like 2020 or 2021 or whatever, but it's the architecture and the technology and the way the space is laid out,
the application,
that is gonna be what spans the test of time, because everything else it's like all these god awful ugly condos that are going up everywhere, and it's like you can pick out any, and who cares if it's like, I don't care if something is from a certain era or it's dated, if it's cool design, right? Like people still love mid-century architecture and it's dated for sure, and
everything comes back around,
right? There are people that don't appreciate it, that are like, oh, that's hideous, but there's something super cool and artistic and unique about it, versus like the stucco garbage that you see that was built in the 90s with like the weird awnings that
quality
you see everywhere. Yeah. And it's like, oh, that's so 90s. And it's like, no, that's not, no one's saying that.
No.
Nobody.
Yeah. And I there are some things like that I can't imagine. I don't know, probably will though. I can't imagine that in 15 or 20 years that people are going to be like, oh, I just would really love to have my house look like a 90s stucco house.
Yeah, maybe it'll come back around.
Oh, that was so cool.
The Gen Zers, Gen Alpha.
I hope
Gen Alpha's
not.
gonna like it.
That's like,
it's all there's gonna be
now
left.
I'm starting to feel aged because things like that happen where I'm like, don't wear 7 tank tops at a time.
Yeah,
that was a terrible trend. But yeah, I think
bell bottoms with ballet flats or whatever. Like,
but yeah, I mean, there's a level. But I think that's important to point out is that like, if you love how that looks and you feel comfortable in it, it almost doesn't matter if it's a trend because it's personally something you're drawn to. And so I think like the thing about having a designer is helping with figuring out what it is you're personally drawn to and bringing that to life in like a classy, timeless way, even if it is something that's a little bit more on the trendy side. And I think like, so what are some of my, I want to talk about some of my like favorite trends and my least favorite trends. Okay.
And get to yours too. So
let's
like,
hear yours first.
One of my favorite like ways to use trends, I think, is to not go, I think this is kind of like where some people maybe miss the mark on it, is if you go too literal with something and you go kind of like all in on one style.
Yes.
Whereas if you say you want like a coastal, beachy, modern bungalow, right? But it looks like literally it's out of a catalog, like that is gonna feel super trendy and super dated soon. But if you were adding in like antiques and you're adding in maybe some vintage rugs and some, you know, sculpture and some one of a kind art pieces, and you're layering it and it's thoughtful, like then that beachy bungalow starts to feel like it has soul and it has life that can evolve, because it's also harder when something is so literal and so exact and like fits at a point in time. It's harder to like add things to it and take things away without it feeling disjointed, because it almost is like a showroom.
Yeah.
Where if you take something out, it no longer works. But if it is a little bit more like, maybe you have a cool mid-century lamp in there and it feels a little bit more cohesive, and like you can change and evolve without it feeling so
agree with
drastic.
that. Yeah. And
so even if somebody likes right now, it's like I'm seeing checkered rugs everywhere, right? And so it's like, I still love a checkered rug. There's nothing wrong with a checkered rug. But if you put a checkered rug in with and it looks like a Lulu in Georgia, or you order everything from Lulu in Georgia, you know what I mean? Which is like a fine, I hope our shit doesn't die. But it's like a great place to source things.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with ordering
there,
from them.
But you don't
if
want
you
to
order everything from them, then it feels like a trend.
Right. But you layer with some vintage, layer it with some new, layer in some marble, have a little bit of mid-century, a little bit of modern, personal elements, paintings and artwork and stuff that you love.
Yeah. And it's just a fine balance of taking feedback from people that are, they say like, oh, I'm seeing this a lot everywhere and I really love it. And